of transgender community is very challenging. So before starting with my presentation, I would like to thank Janki ma'am, Rasbi ma'am, other team members and organizers of NLD, that is Nucleus of Learning and Development, for providing me this opportunity to present myself and share my views and thoughts on my current topic of the third gender. So before starting with the presentation, I would like to ask a question to everyone that what do you think about the plight of transgender community in India, whether it is good, bad, or worse? You can write down your answers in the chat box. Okay, to start with, I would like to quote the renowned author Devdutt Patnaik, who, in his widely known book, Shikhandi and Other Queer Tales They Don't Tell You, probes his queerness of sexual stigma and communicates the versatile facets of transgender people. He remarkably points out queerness like, I am a man, I desire only one woman. I am a woman, I desire only one man. I am a man, I desire only one man. I am a woman, I desire only one woman. I am neither male nor female, I am both male and female. So with this, let's start with our topic. Ma'am, can you please move forward? Okay, so the term transgender, as we all know, that it is a part of LGBTQIA plus community, and it is an inclusive and diverse term to represent individuals with diverse sexual orientations and gender identities. So let's understand that what each letter stands for. I know you all must be aware of this. L, that is lesbian, that stands for women who are attracted to other women. G, gay, that stands for men who are attracted to other men. B, bisexual, that stands for women who are people who are attracted to more than one gender. T, transgender, that means people whose gender identity does not align with the sex they were assigned at birth. Q, queer or questioning, it is a very broad and inclusive term for people who don't fit traditional norms of sexuality or gender. So questioning refers to individuals exploring their sexual orientation or gender identity. So I intersex, that stands for the individuals who are born with physical sex characteristics, for example, that might be in their chromosomes, hormones, or anatomy that do not fit typical definitions of male or female bodies. So they have ambiguous sexual organs with features of both the sexes. For example, a baby might have a larger than usual clitoris, no vaginal opening, and a tiny penis. So, that is asexual, aromantic, or agender. So, that refers to people who experience little or no sexual attraction. So, agender refers to those who identify as having no gender. And the sign of plus. So, that stands for plethora of other orientations and gender identity. Hanji ma'am, can you move forward, ma'am? Next slide. So I've taken up the study of transgender community, which bear the pain of belonging nowhere and being considered queer, deviant, and unnatural by many, in spite of the legal acceptance of the third gender in many countries. So transgender people, they're always seen as outcast and treated as orphans and are thus behind the mask or cover. They're also known as Tritiya Prakriti in Sanskrit. It is the third sex which is responsible for establishing an individual's identity. The members of this group, they have a natural propensity to engage in sexual behavior that looks very different from what is expected of them by the society. So transgenderism is a condition in which an individual's identity does not closely adhere to the standard concepts of male or female gender. Individuals, they are expected to conform to their biological sex by their family, peer group, and society. Gender refers to society's expectations of individuals to adhere to their biological sex. For example, blue is for the boys and pink is for the girls. Similarly, you must have heard that the trucks and bikes, they are for the boys, and soft toys and the dolls, they are for the girls. Girls are considered more emotional and sensitive than the boys. In an article, boys from the book New Direction, the writer says that if boys cry and express their inner emotions in turmoils, so they are considered as effeminate by others. These stereotypes are so ingrained in the society that it is very difficult to break it. So, an individual's gender identity is determined by the pattern of behavior that they exhibit in the social surrounding, and they have to conform to these boxes of male and female. Next slide, ma'am. So, next, topic is, what does it mean to be a transgender? A transgender person is someone whose gender identity differs from the sex they were assigned at birth. For example, a person assigned female at birth who identifies as male is a transgender man, and a person assigned male at birth who identifies as female is a transgender woman. But some transgender individuals, they identify outside the binary, that is neither exclusively male or female, and may identify as non-binary, genderqueer, or gender fluid. Next. So next, this is a very important topic, and let's understand that what are the meanings of biological sex and gender identity and how they are interrelated. Gender and sexuality, they are not natural. They are constructed by the society. So what is biological sex? That refers to the physical attributes such as chromosomes, as we all know, XX, that stands for female, and XY for the male. Hormones like testosterone or estrogen, reproductive anatomy. So these characteristics are often used to assign sex at birth, that whether the child is a boy or a girl. However, some individuals, they are born with physical or chromosomal variations that do not fit typical definitions of male or female. So this resonates with many transgender individuals who argue that their gender identity does not necessarily align with the assigned sex at birth. The chromosomal structure of a kinner is 44 plus XXY. That is, they have total 47 chromosomes instead of the 46. So as we all know that for a girl it is 44 plus XX, and for the male it is 44 plus XY, but it is the 47 in the case of Kinner. So gender identity, that refers to individuals' internal sense of being male, female, neither, or another gender. Gender identity may not align with your biological sex. So that is why the person might be a boy, as a biological sex, his biological sex might be a boy, but he might feel a female inside. So for transgender individuals, the gender identity does not match their sex assigned at birth. So that is why they feel as if their soul is trapped in the wrong body. Next slide, ma'am. So this is also a very important topic, and let's understand that what was the position of transgender community in the ancient Indian literature and how it is different in the modern scenario. The life of transgender community in the ancient period was comparatively better than in the modern scenario. The roots of transgender community in India date back to 13th and 14th centuries. The historical evolution of transgender community in India explicitly showcase the high positions held by transgender as administrators, generals, political advisors, and guardians of the harem. They were considered trustworthy and loyal and played pivotal roles in empire building. But their position deteriorated and altered after the British stepped into India, and this led to their exclusion from the society or a group, and then became a subject of everyday abuse and discrimination even after the collapse of British rule in India. In April 2014, the Supreme Court recognized transgender people as the third gender along with male and female. Earlier, they were forced to write male and female against their gender. The Apex Code said that the transgender people would be allowed admission to educational institutions and given employment on the basis that they belong to the third gender. Next slide. But we have to swallow this bitter pill that in case of transgenders, despite getting the status of third gender legally, they are not even considered as living beings. Except for the traditional happenings and occasions, they are mostly ill treated, sneered with disgust and disrespect. They are not normally accepted by their own family and society, which eventually forms them to form groups of their own. Society often abuses these third genders in public places, and people don't like to sit and share eatables with them, as this community behind the mask is considered a tabooed community. So, an author Vinelal, in his article, Not This, Not That, The Hijras of India and Cultural Politics of Sexuality, explains that there are three main forms for hijras to make a living. Badai, that is giving blessings on auspicious occasions. You must have seen the hijras performing dance, giving the dance performances and giving blessings on the auspicious occasions. Mangti, that means begging and threatening with curses when refused, and getting involved in dhanda, that is the sex work, as society doesn't offer them jobs and other opportunities. Next slide, ma'am. So now let's study the objectives of study. That is, first is to study the psychological impact of transgender community, then to find out the challenges and problems faced by transgender persons, then to explore the social stigma of the transgender community, to investigate transgender victimization, and to examine their struggle for dignity throughout their lives. Next slide, ma'am. So now, let's understand the problems and challenges faced by the transgender community. So, the first important is social stigma and discrimination. As a renowned author, Judith Butler writes, we should strive for a world in which people can live their gender or non gender freely without fear of discrimination or violence. There are various problems faced by transgender community like discrimination, unemployment, lack of educational facilities, homelessness, lack of medical facilities, etc. They are even rejected to enter religious places and public places like hotels, malls, restaurants, and theater, etc. Like normal people. And have you ever seen a transgender people eating in the same hotel or restaurant? I have never seen. They are normally shunned outside the hotels or restaurants, and they are not allowed to enter because the other people, they don't like their existence, and this is really very pathetic. Like normal people, they're not entitled to education, they're not entitled to education in schools and colleges, as they are treated differently. They are often marginalized and pushed to periphery as social outcasts, and so many may end up begging and dancing because they don't have any other option left. Society disregards the reality of transgender individual and has closed off the economic opportunities, so plunging them into poverty and rendering their existence questionable. Next slide, ma'am.